Hello, my amazing artists. Today we're at the Guggenheim. Now, it looks a little bit different than the Guggenheim we saw in Bilbao, Spain. This is the Guggenheim in New York City. This is the Solomon R. Guggenheim, and it is near Central Park on the Upper East Side in New York City. Now, the Guggenheim, what makes this building so famous is it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, a famous American architect. Now, Frank Lloyd Wright designed this building in the 50s, in the 1950s, and he was inspired by nature for all of his designs. But especially for this building, he was inspired by a shell or a nautilus shell. Because if you ever look at the end of a shell that maybe a snail lives in, you'll see how it's curved and it spirals in. Well, a lot of architects and artists believe that this is a perfect design because it builds on itself and it has a lot of significance mathematically as well. Now we're going to take a look on the inside of the Guggenheim, and you're going to really start to see the shell-like design. Okay, now we are looking inside the museum and down into the atrium, so from up above in the museum. Frank Lloyd Wright had a certain way he wanted you to go through his museum. You go up through the elevator up to the top of the building, and then you circle down and around through the museum till you end up at the bottom. And that way you can go by and look at all the different pieces of art and then move on, and you won't miss anything. So we call this a linear design. Even though you're wrapping around the building, you're going in a line. There's one pathway that you follow. This painting is called Yellow Cow by Franz Marc. And believe it or not, this was actually a wedding gift to Marc's wife. Now, Franz Marc really liked imagery. So he believed that animals were pure. So the cow actually represents the bride or his wife. And the yellow, also, it's yellow because he believes that it's cheerful and Marc believed that the blue mountains were masculine blue for masculinity. So to Marc, this made a good wedding present. Another painting that you'll see at the Guggenheim is Composition 8 by Kandinsky. Now, Kandinsky was a Russian painter, and you can see that he is an abstract painter, that this painting doesn't look like anything that we recognize. It has a lot of shapes, a lot of colors, and Kandinsky really believed in paintings being a reflection of the senses. So he painted a lot of what he heard. He would listen to music, jazz music, and he would paint the colors and the shapes that he would hear in the music. One of the paintings that you'll see at the Guggenheim is this painting by Mondrian. Now, Mondrian was a French painter, and this is called Tableau 2. And he painted kind of what we call a modern style. And remember, we had talked about that modern time being between like 1880 to 1950 or 60. So he would take everything away. He didn't believe that painting should look like anything because nobody can truly mimic what real life looks like. So he took everything away and reduced everything to these lines, these black lines on a white background. And then he added in blocks of primary colors. Now, since Mondrian and Frank Lloyd Wright were contemporaries, which means they lived at the same time, you might see some of Mondrian's influences in Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture, especially in the stained glass windows. And if you watch our lesson this week, where you're going to see lots of examples of Frank Lloyd Wright stained glass windows. Well, that concludes our tour of the Guggenheim in New York City. I hope you've enjoyed these museum tours because I've really enjoyed taking you around the world and showing you different types of art. I hope you all have a wonderful summer.